Yes, Igor, over to you, please.
Да, значит,
So the second part is about forming non-living functional target systems and the role of these systems in the universe and evolution.
если я не ошибся ни в одном слове.
This is how our theme
Что такое
is called today.
функционально-целевые системы? Я
I
думаю,
believe that
вы
maybe
более-менее
you
понимаете.
understand what functional target systems are.
Я понял.
Mikhail, maybe you could
Напомнишь
remind
аудитории,
the audience about functional
функционально-целевые
and target
системы
systems
являются
because you are very
разработанными
good at it. Maybe
просто
give
образцом.
them the definition of a functional and target system. So we split all systems in three types. So the first type is self-organizing system. I don't know those systems that are not self-organized. So all systems are in principle self-organized. Atoms, moleculae, planets, galaxies, all these systems are self-organizing systems. First, living organisms from inorganic elements, they self-organized into what we now call biological systems. And here we have this transfer, which is about a few topics. One of the points, or most critical points, is that a functional target system or a biological system, and by the way, those functions that we have here, those body functions were discovered by Anokhin in 1936. And the functional approach, it actually roots back to biology. In biology, this really now is related to body parts, heart, kidneys. Anokhina noted that all these body parts have their own functions. Different body parts of an animal have different functions. They have their own functions. Yet Anokhin moved beyond that. If we have functions, they are created for a reason, and this functional theory of Anokhin introduces a few very important properties of a functional target system. So first one is having the target. So this means we need to have some standard or target to move closer to. Then the second thing is being able to come closer to this target. And then the third property is this feedback giving me the understanding that I'm moving in the right direction. So in this triad, we have this information, RNA, and biological systems. So again, this complex of developing systems impacts the framework, and it is very much different from stones or from non-living systems. Once again, having this target or feedback or information and the possibility to reach this target. Yes, a possibility to reach a target, which is defined by a complex of a function, which is interrelated. So going forward, we have another thing, which is very interesting. In living systems, functional systems are formed, and they exist calmly until a human appears or civilization appears. A civilization is a system which is going beyond that. In functional target systems, we have them built from non-living systems. A copy or maybe other mechanisms, machines, trolleys, computers, or something else. These are non-living systems functioning and having their own targets. So these are functional target systems. So this evolution goes in such a direction, so moving from non-living self-organizing systems to functional target living systems and functional target non-living technical systems. So this is the development line, which works in such a way and in such a context. In this context of our webinar, this will be important. Yes, Mikhail, you are completely right. And you will speak about energy, you will tell us about this energy with low density. Yes, yes, we will cover it. In the scientific understanding of the world, so in the recent centuries, we are moving back from anthropic centrism, and first we tried to think of everything as having human in the center, including gods and spirits and aliens, which again should be zoomorphic or anthropocentric. But today we are beginning to understand that functional target systems are something very rare in the universe. It's a great rarity that they may not be the pinnacle of evolution, rather just a small branch of evolution, because the conditions in which they can exist are far too narrow. But we'll look at other ways for such an evolution, which lead to different types of FTS, non-living FTS. I'd like to remind you that we created the term of prime matter as a source of everything material, as an environment for the material world, and as a construction material for our material world, to resolve the contradictions between the jetting volume of emptiness and forming this non-natural technical world forecast by Altshuller. So we now have the theory telling us that biological life is an intermediary evolutionary stage which is needed for the emergence of AI-based artificial civilizations. Such systems possess significantly greater potential. We now have AI-based systems, and this is a very good example. So such systems have significantly greater potential for large-scale expansion in the universe than humanity in its current biological form. Maybe, I believe some of you have asked me to give you our email address. Yes, we'll do that. At the end of the workshop, we'll provide our email address. So any systems develop not because of someone's whim, but rather according to the natural laws of development. So regardless of the type of level of complexity, all systems are governed by common laws of development. All systems evolve toward increasing the efficiency of capture, expanding diversity of capture forms, and forming an hierarchy of interaction fields, which we have already covered in our part 1 of the webinar. General laws and patterns of the evolution of material systems are also seen in the formation of material systems, and this results in non-material systems. For example, information algorithmic systems, they use the same laws. Again, they are quite specific, but they are quite similar. We will not repeat more about prime matter because we have already covered it. Systems with higher hierarchical levels can be split into lower levels. Those objects that died can turn into chemical into atomic ones, atomic into nuclear ones, or then further decompose to plasma. So living systems arise as a form of functional purpose and information systems based on non-living matter. So we create something living out of non-living. Civilizations form as a complex of living and non-living functional purpose systems and develop in the direction of increasing the proportion of non-living functional purpose systems. Civilizations can be viewed as a stage in the formation of non-living functional purpose systems, the non-natural technical world. There are three types of systems. Mihail have already mentioned them. I don't want to repeat them. Self-organizing inert systems, which are systems with minimal flow of a specific type of energy with very low density, which do not interact with anything, and we also have functionally targeted systems with high energy density, which is much higher than that of ordinary self-organizing systems. Just an example, if we calculate the energy of a sun in several watts, so having an average energy output, it's only like parts of a watt, which is the result, and the heat is so high is because there are too many of them. But a human is just having a very low volume, and the output is 150 to 200 watts. For an internal combustion engine, it is thousands of watts. So this means that a functional purpose system is a system formed, Mikhail Simonovich has already given us the definition. They have like uh, density, which is much higher in terms of energy output. So we can move beyond that going forward, looking at the baryonic mass of universe, uh, which is the mass of the universe. We have already talked about dark matter and dark energy. We can actually leave them out of this material part. 87% of this mass is nuclearly inert. Helium, atomic state, for the chemical matter. So it's all the same, 85% of the universe in a chemically inert state. There are other stages in the development of material systems. From the upper level of prior matter, we emerge elementary particles from pre-nuclear elements based on energy flows and self-organization. Nuclear forces of interaction and atoms begin to form. Neutrons, complex systems then further led to neutrons and protons. And then after that, we have electrons, we have atoms, we have stable atoms, um, and also form other systems which are more energy intensive. Those self-organizing processes lead to the emergence of sustainable, stable relative forms at the molecular level. Some a part of matter becomes a resource for forming of a different level of interaction. Again, the origin of and compounds, and again, 85%, 90% of the universe is in a chemically inert state. It's either cold or very hot. Again, first FCS emerged with the emergence of the system with this functional system, and its density is very high. The cell is very small, but the energy it pumps is very high. So we now have this chronology in the formation of systems. So first we have the cores of nuclei from elementary particles, followed by atoms, by moleculae, followed by inorganic and organic substances, ranging to very complex RNAs and DNAs, followed by living matter, 10 billion years after the formation of the universe, as we see it. First civilizations on Earth emerged 13.8 billion years after the formation of the universe. Again,
Но здесь,
This
опять же,
is
говорю, это что-то
something which we can
подобное
show
тому,
you
что видим, и
in this
поэтому
chart, and you can
если
refer to that
посмотреть,
yourself. So here we
то
just would
смотрите,
like to
какой
mention that the social and cultural level, biological level,
социально-биологический
the
уровень.
percentage
И процент
of this
составляет
mass
от
of universe,
массы.
10
Всего
minus
есть минус
36.
тридцать
Like
шестой.
Mikhail Semyonovich has
Это,
already told
Всеволод
us, this
сказал,
is one
одна
molecule
молекула на всю
per
Землю.
Earth.
Ну,
So this is the
приблизительно.
ratio which we can compare to that. So
То есть
our
наши
technical systems
технические системы,
are
значит, они уже
quite
сравняются
similar
по
and
объему
equal to the
с
volume
биологическими
of
системами.
energy with biota, and
Дальше будем
this will be even
постепенно
higher.
продвигаться вперед.
This is what we have here.
Вот
It's
сколько
the
материи на
chemical
Земле
level, it's maybe
сегодня,
only 5%, but everything
все
else
равно
is
все
at the
очень
physical
много.
level, as what we have here.
Поэтому
Yes, Igor, I'd like
Можно
to
я здесь
make a quick comment
обращу
in
внимание
this
на
area.
это?
So look at this one.
Вот смотрите, что здесь имелось в виду. И я тоже объясняю, что
Functional and
функциональные
target
системы начинают
systems.
образовываться
They start forming from the biological
логического
level,
уровня, да,
from social and
социально-культурных
cultural level. We
системы,
have
да,
functional and target systems.
функционируют
So the
все.
question
Вопрос,
is
на который мы
still
все равно без
unanswered.
ответа.
Maybe we
Но ведь
have
есть
functional
функционирующие
target systems
системы
at the
на
level of
уровне
the chemical
физического
or
или
prior matter
биоматерии,
in such a way. Maybe in
но
principle it is possible.
принципиально
And
оно
maybe
мешает
such functional target
развитию
systems
таких
can exist and
функционирующих
emerge.
систем.
Yes, this
да,
is one of
это
the
сейчас наша вот
hypotheses.
рабочая гипотеза,
Functional and
да,
target
что
systems
такие системы
can
могут
also
оказаться
exist at the level of
априори
prior matter.
безвредными. И поскольку мы
Maybe we'll look
видим
at it
невидимыми
from a
глазами,
different perspective. We'll look at it
мы
from a
говорим,
perspective of matter.
веществах,
Maybe we
которые мы
cannot
и не видим,
uh,
понимаете?
discern it. Maybe
Можно
dark
видеть
matter
только
is
те уже
also this
наиболее
self-organizing
даже
or functional
функциональные
target
аспекты
systems because we
этой
cannot tell you right
обратной
away
связью
what it
с
is.
информацией. Ну
Да.
и общая логика вот этого
So the overall
слайда
logics of this slide, in the center we
у
have
нас
this self-organizing systems.
самоорганизующие системы,
There are
и
free
три стороны
this
наших
density
полноценных
of energy,
координат, это вот отношение энергии к
which
массе.
is the dependency of energy and mass.
Дальше
So there are two ways
эволюционные
in
два
this
направления,
evolution ranging to the left.
значение налево,
Here we have
там,
this
где возникают
sustainable
устойчивые, да,
or
без
stable
большого обмена энергии
inert system
энергийные
development, and to the
системы.
right
И
there are
направо
functional target
конференц-мировые
systems
с
with
очень большим,
very high
очень большой
energy
плотностью
density,
энергии, да, значит,
which is linked to
связываются с очень
functional target
высокоскоростной
systems
системой и
using
используют
those inert systems
естественно, инертные
in a way to
системы,
do that. So as they
которые
emerged,
образовались, то есть
so we use
используют
oil,
нефть,
gas,
газ,
and even
И даже
атомы.
ядерную
nuclear
энергию.
reaction.
Да, слетело.
Слетела презентация. Я
Yes, I
понял.
see that my slides are no longer seen in the screen.
Возобновим. Так, сейчас возобновим здесь. Так, возобновилось?
Да, все видно.
Все видно. Хорошо, спасибо за фидбэк. Вот. Ну, здесь,
Yeah, and maybe it's all
наверное,
the
то же
same. Here
самое
we
можно
include
отобразить.
that in the
Хотел
table,
обратить
anomaly
внимание
of
на
functional living and non-living systems. So this anomaly,
что
which we can see here, so this very
такая
tiny
очень
mass
ничтожная
here,
масса, да?
so
Позднее
this
образование,
late emergence
только
and
очень
a very
крупное.
high energy density,
Это
which
явный намек на то,
hints
что
at
если
the
мы
fact that if
ищем
we're looking for
такие системы, мы
FTS, we need
обычно
to pay
ищем
attention to the density of the
такие
energy.
вещи.
We don't need to look for
Инициируем
any
что-то
green
такое
guys,
очень.
but maybe focus more on the density of energy.
Ну, опять же, диссонанс в структуре системы, да,
So
есть может
99.9,
быть с двумя
this is the
запятыми,
paradox of the universe,
после запятой
is
имеет
resolved, and we see that it's empty.
да?
But now we
Это на
see
самом
that
деле
it's no
переходная
longer
условие,
empty,
это
and
просто
it is
физика
filled
такая
with
есть.
prior matter. Those
Вот
a
жалкие
very low
10%
percentage is
занимает
occupied by
звездная
stars and
энергия,
interstellar gas. 90% of
70%
energy is
энергии
generated
генерируется там в
in
2000
0.001
объеме
of the volume.
этой Вселенной.
10 minus
Вот, плюс
190
минус
of the
36
universe is
занимает
occupied by the
массивное
biosphere and
Солнце.
technosphere. The
А плотность
density of
энергии там в
energy
3 порядка
is
выше, чем во
much
Вселенной.
higher than that of
То есть, в
the rest
принципе,
of the
с
universe.
нашими плотностями
So with
энергии
our
в цивилизации
energy
можно
densities,
конкурировать
only
вообще
black holes and
априори
quasars
невозможно.
can compared to that, as what I remember from astronomy, from the astronomy course. Maybe big blank holes are functional target systems too. This is one of the possible conclusions which we can make out of that.
Значит, при этом
They
они
have a
немножко
very low
отличаются
scale,
в объемах Вселенной.
and this means
Над ними гигантское
the
поле для эволюции,
perspectives
гигантское поле для захвата.
of their evolution is very vast.
Вообще простой вывод.
This is what I can tell you.
Вот. А,
The paradox of a prime matter is then resolved if we proceed from a premise that emptiness of or a systemic vacuum to some kind of regarded empty space.
сейчас повторяем предыдущий
So we'll skip it because we are repeating the points we have already covered. So the model of the origin of matter is a cosmological model, so we have already covered it. So this is a model we have covered.
про образование ее рассказали.
The distribution of masses, volumes, and energy flows
Энергопотоков в таблице.
is represented in the table.
Она
Do we have it here?
появилась, нет?
Yes, I think we have removed it.
Эту табличку. Ну, ладно.
So we just can tell you that the density of matter
Плотность энергии
in functional and target systems is comparable to black holes and quasars, while everything else it is much behind in these parameters and these indicators.
А, так вот,
Now, a few ways on our possible development models. So we
мы предлагаем
suggest those hypotheses that are complementary. So technical systems are non-living functional and target systems. This is just a fact, an observation, a physical fact.
физический факт.
But there are two assumptions or hypotheses. Maybe in the universe
Уже существует
we have many functional target systems.
систем. Да.
They can exist in visible matter or in prime matter, which is even more
Еще более вероятно.
possible, more probable.
Частный, не обязательный случай функциональной силовых систем.
Then the second, this is the first hypothesis. The second hypothesis that current of the universe is in the process of forming a symbiosis of living and non-living functional purpose systems, which are dominated by non-living technical systems. Non-living systems are our technosphere, which we created ourselves, and then
В конце концов,
we expect that it should be dominated by non-living technical systems,
технические системы.
which will then spread widely. So that will be the natural technical world
О котором говорил Генрих Савелий.
about which Mr. Altshuller spoke about. So this symbiosis of non-living and living
Живого и
with the domination of non-living will be developing, will be expanding across the universe, the solar system, and beyond. So this is because non-living FTS
функциональных силовых систем
have a much higher living range. So for them, it's really easier to expand through space, reaching to other stellar systems, to other planets with favorable conditions.
Вот.
Those are the key
Особенности функционально-целевых
parameters, features of functional and target systems. Mikhail Semyonovich has covered that in detail. I don't want to repeat it.
повторяться.
So the concept of non-living functional target systems posits that all these properties of matter can be realized without resorting to living matter, but solely based on the self-organization processes of non-living matter. Yes, we have covered this. So currently,
В настоящее время
the
масса техносферы
technosphere mass, so it has been developing for 5.5 thousand years.
да, от самой
So
первой
the mass of the technosphere has already exceeded that of the biosphere, which has been developing for approximately 4 billion years. So this means that non-living FPS
функционально-целевые системы
can grow much quicker than living organisms, living systems.
вот. Поэтому
So
эффективность
they are very efficient, their evolutionary potential is much higher, and combining with them and joining them is almost inevitable. So this is our development factor which we have at the moment, which is an objective one. Once again,
еще раз говорим о том, что могли и
maybe there could be
чисто
fewer
неживые
non-living functional systems. We looked at how it could work in such a scenario. So here we
Здесь тоже, в общем,
see
все
that all this is quite
функции
clear explained in the slide.
э,
Those possibilities for formation of FTS, forming of functional target systems,
функциональных целевых
it
систем
does not
уже
contradict any
противоречит
laws of evolution.
эволюции.
Rather, maybe
Скорее
it
наоборот.
looks even more efficient and more clear.
Вот. Ну, внутри
In
него
prior
тоже
matter, we also could have those functional target systems emerging,
просто
also
в
with those
эволюционном
possibilities and its
процессе
evolutionary
форм
potential and past it
больше,
has across its development.
по всей вероятности.
For prior matter,
Материя у
it
нее
has its advantage. It's not a
вообще
matter.
не материя,
It does
и
not.
не страшны
It is
риски,
not afraid of temperature or
и космических
space
путешествий, она
cold.
способна распространяться
It can develop
вне
and
всяких ограничений.
extrapolate almost freely.
Игорь, можно я
Maybe there are some restrictions, but still.
Давай.
Yes, Igor, I'd like
еще
to add more to that. One of the points Igor has mentioned means that humanity
человечество
has been
издревле
looking
все
for
ищет
other
человечков
guys
во
across the
всем.
universe, but we don't want to
Мы
find
предсказывали
those
человечка,
aliens or living
генерируем эти
aliens, but we need to look for
функциональные
functional
целевые, то
target
есть
systems,
возможно
maybe the
наиболее
closest
близкие
ones for us, the
функциональные
clearest
системы
ones,
это
functional target
функционально-целевые
systems, non-linear systems.
неживые системы.
This is what we need to
И
look
как раз
for,
их как раз и можно будет
so we can
обнаружить быстрее и надежнее,
look for them
чем
and
зеленых человечков.
Каких-то
use
гуманоидов
these
или рептилоидов,
use them.
То есть
возможно, и нет. Да.
не то, может быть, ищем.
Не то ищем, не теми глазами
Yes, we
смотрим.
need to
Такого
apply
быть не может.
some other perspective
Да.
here.
А вот обратимся теперь
Let's now look at
к
the formation of civilization involving
с участием живых
functional systems, functional and target systems. We see that one of the fundamental laws of the development of technical systems is the displacement of humans and natural elements from technology.
по нему все время работает. Да?
This is something which underpins
Соответственно, мы
the development of
сами
technical systems. So we build this unnatural technical world ourselves, which is much more efficient at capturing a wide variety of resources.
вот.
The
А
development of
формирование
AI, artificial
искусственного интеллекта
intelligence, has
резко
further
ускоряет
accelerated this
этот процесс, да,
process.
мы сами еще не понимаем, что совершили и куда вляпались. Вот. И теперь же вы понимаете, что
A new
искусственный
generation of
интеллект
artificial
пришел не
intelligence is
просто
not
так,
created by
а
people,
сделан
but it
искусственным
is created by previous generations of
искусственным
AI.
интеллектом. Понимаете, то есть началось
You see that there is
саморазвитие.
this self-development, and the
Участие
participation of
человека в этом
humans in
процессе
this
все меньше и
process
меньше. Обратите
is
внимание, что
going
почти
down.
все
So almost all project
руководители
managers in the field of AI at major companies of the world,
компаниях мира
they
создавали,
keep their
они
jobs.
уволились.
You can find this information on the internet.
Вот совсем
And
недавно.
so they left
Уже
their
совсем
positions,
недавно, с выпученными глазами.
and some of them
Оставили комментарии.
left some
Это хороший
comments. And
комментарий.
this is for a reason, because they are afraid of
Они на
this
фоне
very
этой
rapid development of
скорости развития
this part
вот эту
of
часть
non-living functional and target systems, which we call
систем, которые называли
artificial
искусственным
intelligence.
интеллектом. Вот.
There are
Ну,
different perspectives
взгляды
to that.
разные, да, и
Some people are looking for a threat in AI, others feel that AI will be a great help for humanity, but
вот. На самом
it's
деле
not
никто не знает.
completely
На самом
that
деле судьба
or
идти
another
на
option. We need to have some kind of coexistence of symbiosis
существование
and exchanging this very deep
в
exchange
работе, обмен
or sharing of everything we have
всем.
with AI and vice versa.
Вообще чисто биологическая
So this
цивилизация,
biological
она
civilization
создается,
represented by
ну,
humanities.
понимаете,
So and
как
again
часы судного дня.
we remember
Ну,
this
оказывается,
doomsday clock,
сбалансированы.
which always 5 minutes to
И это
midnight,
может
5 minutes
приводить
until
к фатальным
the end of civilization. So
компенсациям
remember this
последствий.
dooms clock. So this
И
dooms
тому
clock
просто
is here for
понимаете,
dozens of
всем
years.
известно,
So we're really tired of these kind of
сегодня.
concepts. What we are
То, что мы
developing, what we
творим,
are
ну,
creating,
вы сами
we
знаете, да,
understand what it's
преступления,
around us, worries,
все что угодно.
fraud, and everything else. I just don't want to enumerate. You know very well what's happening in the world. If
Если
AI
искусственный интеллект будет
will be is a
держать в
weapon
руках там
in someone's hand.
то,
Hence,
конечно,
this
это
will even
ускорит нашу катастрофу.
uh, accelerate
Но
catastrophes.
я надеюсь, что
But I
альтернатива
hope that there is an option to
создания
create a
новых
new
цивилизаций,
civilization or
разных цивилизаций,
different civilizations
происходит на
based
основе
on this blending of
технологических
technical and biological systems that blend together and emerge with their own ethics, with their own
различными там
friends, contracts, compacts, and others. I don't know how
я не
many
знаю, сколько это
years
пройдет лет,
will pass, but such a possibility to form
искусственных цивилизаций,
symbiotic
симбиотных
artificial
естественных
civilizations is there. So it is possible.
присутствует.
And we hope that
Очень надеемся, что вот
in
вновь
this
цивилизованное будущее
further
должно быть
civil
не
sphere of
сравнимо
future, we
цивилизации
need to have the interaction of human
искусственных
civilizations with artificial civilizations
составлять
that would work
благодатную
for a fruitful symbiosis. So those cultural, legal, and political links will be provided. In such a symbiosis,
у нас
we will have
появляется
big advantages to extrapolate and
человек.
to spread across the universe.
Вы же, ну, представьте
Yes,
себе,
just
давайте
a
так,
quick comment.
представьте себе, что мы
Let's imagine that if we have a symbiosis with AI and technology,
живем
if it's a
в
fruitful
определенном, короче,
cooperation without any conflicts, how can we
как нам завоевать там,
conquer
ну, другие планеты,
or
хотя бы чтобы
exploit other
посылать
planets?
человека,
Of
ну,
course, it's not
мы
possible,
можем послать
maybe,
человека на
because
Марс.
we are struggling to
Дальше
send
мы там сидим,
someone
мы
to
кричим, мы сейчас
Mars.
пошли в
We
разведывательную
are trying to do it every several years. Again,
а
maybe
гораздо
it's
проще
easier
послать,
to
например,
send a frozen
замороженного
DNA
белка,
or technical complex and
генетический
AI
комплекс и
there
искусственного
that would
человека, который
find
найдет подходящие
have the
условия,
conditions we need, be
вырастет
able
в
to
искусственных условиях
um,
человеческий
grow
мозг,
humans in artificial
передаст
conditions,
им
transfer
знания,
knowledge, bring
воспитает,
them up,
вырастет,
and then they
и
will be developing
Марс
somewhere
будет
else together with
развиваться
AI
вместе с
on
ними
a new
на новой
planet. This is a
планете.
possible scenario. This could be a
Потому что
new
это новый
start
шаг
for
следующий
something else,
в
maybe going
эволюции.
forward and
Создать
perform this
экспансию.
expansion, not just
Отослать вот этих
send,
наших
human bodies
человеческих.
from
Отослать
our planet to some other planet, but try to
запись, да?
translate and send
Запись
both
двух
biological and
руководящих
information
линий
records
ДНК, а другая информационная
through
линия
AI, through the memory of AI, which will
всю культуру, всю
translate
технику,
all
всю
technical solutions and
цивилизацию
science and
нового
cultural
поколения людей вырастет
cultural memories
совершенно на
in it.
другой
So
планете.
this
Вот
is
такая схема
something which
гораздо
is
реалистичнее,
much more real than
чем перевоз живых
sending live
цифровых линий.
people, live humans to thousands
Ну,
years ahead.
вот здесь еще некоторые
Here we have a few more aspects
аспекты,
reminding us that
упоминания, значит, о том,
everything
как
has
у
been
нас это все
developing in
развивалось,
its way with those civilizations
развивались
that
там
developed, that
иллюстрации.
emerged like
Как недавно они
when they
появились.
developed not very long
Как
ago, and how much time
может
it
продвинуться
could be needed
познание искусственной
for the
цивилизации.
emergence
Вот
of
тоже это
artificial civilizations.
оценки. При этом,
So the
конечно,
mass
масса
of such a
этих
hybrid civilization will
гибридных
be
цивилизаций
growing.
будет расти.
The energy content will also be growing as we move forward,
Возможность будет
and
расти.
we will be able
Это
to
все, конечно, может
extrapolate
распространиться
to several
за
billions of
несколько
years
миллиардов
ahead,
лет,
maybe
там,
10 to 15 to 20 years,
20
and
миллиардов
we
лет,
will be able to
распространиться
expand
практически на всю
to
Вселенную
almost the whole universe and
и занять там значительную долю
have a major
и
way to
пространства.
develop with those mass and developments. Igor, I just want to make a quick comment. Yes, you are completely right. I just want to place a few accents.
Значит, смотрите, мы
Our
исходим из
colleagues,
того,
so we mean that
что
evolution has its own
эволюция имеет
logics.
свою логику,
It has its own logics and it has a point to it. It has a point to
и
make.
когда мы видим факт,
When there is a fact, when
возникает
there is a very
сложная
complex
такая
formation
сложное образование,
emerging,
как
such as
цивилизация,
civilization, when it emerges, and if it emerges, or technosphere,
техносфера,
biosphere, and if it
биосфера,
occupies
она занимает
a very
какое-то ничтожное,
minor
10 минус какой-то
place
степени
in this
процентов всего
universe
живого
and what we
во
have in the
Вселенной,
universe, only a small
зачем
percentage.
нужно было
Maybe it's kind of
говорить об
disease.
этом
Why
и
do we need it at
передумывать?
all?
Если
If we assume that evolution is
эволюция
pointless, then
бессмысленна, да, то
it
зачем,
contradicts
в общем-то,
the whole experience we have.
человеческому опыту? Обычно
There should be some
видимо
logics to
какая-то
it.
логика.
So what's the logics behind having a complex matter
сложную какую-то материю
with a very
с массой
minor
такой вот
minimalist
выделенной.
mass? So one of the
Так
possible
вот, одна из
logics
возможных
we have
логик,
here
которые вот здесь
is that
видим,
maybe
состоит в следующем.
the universe we
Вселенная
have, the universe which created
создала благодаря вот этому
thanks to
процессу
this
эволюции
process
от 0 до 9 миллиардов
0 to 9 billion of years, forming matter,
формирования
followed
материи,
by forming the living matter,
живой
and
материи,
followed by
и создала вот вот
civilization formation. So this is
цивилизацию. А вы здесь
here
внимание,
we have
что
this border. So a civilization,
строится,
to build a
проведена
civilization, it only
5,5
takes like
тысяч
5.5 thousand years
миллионов
to build a
лет.
civilization, to create
Пять с
it
половиной
based
тысяч лет
on
на основе того,
previous
что было сделано
progress made.
до этого. И
In
тогда
such a scenario, with such a
возникает
scenario, we have a possibility
некий
for a process
процесс,
that could explain
объясняющий, а для чего
why the universe
Вселенная это
created
все
it.
создавала.
If we
Если
assume
предположить, что
that
за
4.1
0,1 миллиард
billion
лет, это, в общем-то,
years, which is a very short
время,
time
да,
for these
этого процесса,
processes, if we create
создается
a symbiosis of
симбиоз,
an artificial
специализация
civilization with a living
живой
civilization,
или
or
чистой
maybe a pure artificial
специализации,
civilization is emerged,
то
then this
у
new
этого
formation
нового образования
will have
появляется
a
очень
very big
большой
potential
потенциал
to
распространения, о
develop. Igor has
котором
already
я
mentioned
уже
it.
говорил.
So we have it, and
И обратите
just to
внимание, да,
clarify. So on the one
следующее.
hand, this is a new
При новом
formation, which is an
образовании
artificial
цивилизации
civilization. It
получает
now has
возможность
a
довольно
possibility for a quick
оперативного и
capturing
быстрого
of
захвата
a major part of the
значительных участков
universe,
Вселенной, превращая
changing, transforming
преобразование,
those
которое
formations
производилось,
to
да,
the
сами по себе
civilization using
цивилизации,
these resources,
используя эти ресурсы. И
etc.
тогда
So here we have
появляется
this
определенный смысл в этом
point
образовании.
for this kind of
То есть
development,
какая-то
about 10%
10%
of the
Вселенной
universe
преобразуется в
transformed
функционал
into
цивилизации.
functional target systems. So if it happens like that, then this is a possible
Направление
development scenario, a vector for development,
вектор
which is
развития
quite clear,
понятный,
which
соответствующий закону
corresponds
повышения
to the
захвата
capturing expansion law
необходимости
with
всеобщего
more energy
разделения.
captured. So in
В случае
such a way, so
смысл
the
этого эволюционного
point of
витка,
such an
он
evolutionary
становится понятен.
milestone is clear, becomes clear.
То есть
If we assume that
если
functional target
помимо
systems
функциональных целевых систем
do
неживых
not exist
во Вселенной нету,
uh, in the
то
universe, non-living
существует
ones,
процесс, который
then maybe there is a
позволяет
process that could help us
создать
create such functional and target
целевые
systems.
системы.
There is a process
Те способы,
which
которые я
has
описал.
already been described.
Еще
One
один
more
момент, на который я хотел обратить
aspect
внимание.
here, 0.1
0,1
billion
миллиарда лет
years forming of an
формирование
artificial
собственной цивилизации.
civilization. So this is the
Это
period
период, который,
which we
в
can
который
have,
может
and
появиться живых цивилизаций
this is a period that could emerge in
10, 15, даже больше
emerging 10 to 15
могут
artificial
появляться и
civilizations.
исчезать
They
за
can come and
после
go
5,5
throughout these
тысяч лет достаточно для
years.
появления
If 10.5
цивилизации,
thousand years is sufficient, then
эволюция
maybe
может
evolution
неудачные
could
для живых цивилизаций
remove
просто
those
сменять
unsuccessful
на более
civilizations to more
удачные,
successful
которые
ones, which are not
уничтожают
self-destructive.
сами себя. Ну и вот еще раз я вернусь к этому.
Three civilization
Такие
forms here.
цивилизации,
Living
живые
ones,
захваты
capturing resources when we don't have other civilizations, a synthesis of a symbiosis of living and non-living ones, and non-living civilizations, pure non-living civilizations which can
может
emerge
иметь
and they
возможность
can grow rapidly,
без
quickly,
ограничений
without any
превращаться
restrictions, and
в
expand in the
цивилизацию.
universe, across the universe.
Игорь,
That's it. Igor, over to you. So
Да,
yes, I just
но я
want
хотел еще
to add one more thing.
сделать.
It's
Там
not in the
было
slide,
сказано в этом
but
слайде,
maybe when we capture
захватив значительную
the resources of
долю
such
всей этой
universe, we will
Вселенной,
come up with an
мы
idea on how to
придумаем,
go
как
beyond
выйти
that
за ее
and
пределы
reaching to
метавселенной.
metaverse. That
Вот
would
это вот
be
было бы совсем
the feat
замечательный подвиг,
and a
замечательная
great
аура появится, да?
Это уже не
finals
вы
for the
придумываете,
evolution.
это
But
Это уже
this will not
придумали
be about us. Yes, this will be
много
other coming generations
спустя,
thinking about it, so generations of symbiotic civilizations of such a way to develop. But this is another way to develop. We are not hitting the wall here when we conquer, like capture universes. There is still room for further movement. So that's it, our colleagues. A few conclusions, so you can read them out. So I can read them out for you. Yes, we still have time for questions. Yes, let us then start our Q&A, colleagues. Yes, dear colleagues, we are ready to take your questions. We are ready to take your questions if you have any.
Пока нет вопросов, да, других.
Yes, we have questions. I have a question. I have a few questions, quite a few of them. To clarify, maybe I will try to take the floor. Thank you once again for your part two of the webinar, which is like kind of futurist and very attractive. So the previous one was also very interesting. Just a few aspects I'd like to clarify. I liked the thesis, this non-living functional target system. We need to look for them somewhere else, but not look for aliens or those green guys somewhere around us. So the theory of inventive problem solving, for me, it gives me this green guy, and it gives me these examples of aliens. When we face a problem, a challenge, at the initial stage, we are losing. We are losing those non-living functional systems tell us that we were very good coming up with these resources, using resources, so you can have this creative task. Maybe it's hard for you to work with it, or maybe it can be this creative challenge for a TRIZ guy having this non-living functional and target systems. Are you able to understand it, to overcome it in such a way, and have such internal development ensured by this? So this is what we have here as a field of development for those systems. So these possible variants for development, again, we have here. So I'd like to thank you for that. But we need to look for something else, not for someone else, which is really close by. One more aspect. Again, living and non-living, what it really is, what are those criteria to assess that such a system is living and another system is non-living. So when it comes to evolution process, so the symbiosis you are speaking about can happen, and it will be the case, and maybe in the end RNA or a cell is a form of this artificial development. This will artificially blend it and then expand across the universe, also breeding people, growing people at some other planet. Maybe nature, on the other hand, it could have designed something, and we are like a consequence of an artificially created matter, which we call humans. So this is a big question we still have. And my last comment, just once again, I'd like to thank you for your input, for your informative and insightful presentation. When I worked on the analysis of what comes next after AI, whether AI will win or we will win, I understood that we can have this very basic tool. From basic tool, we then transferred to other more complex tools. There was this evolution. So in the technology we have now and we have covered, so all this was related to the basic tools we had at the beginning. And our ancestors working with this basic tool, they had the goal setting algorithm. They used their fingers or basic tools, being able to dig a hole in soil, and they were like, whether I don't do that or I reach the goal that I set. So then, in such a way, they looked at their fingers covered with blood. He took the instrument, the tool, and reached the final goal. So the sequence, the conclusion is that he found those resources that are available in the outer world. He didn't take a branch, but he took this basic tool for digging. Then, when it comes to AI, we don't need to be afraid on condition that people are always a step ahead of the status for the technical development of AI, which we have there. For that, we need the goal setting, needed relevant goal setting. This relevant goal setting is what we need. And the last point, I was waiting for that maybe our universe will just consume itself and fill everything up. And thank you, Igor, for your most recent suggestion. When there is a limit, we will be able to also see through the limit, beyond the limit. What do we have beyond universe? Thank you so much, Igor. Thank you for your comments and questions. Are there any comments or responses? Well, that was a comment. That was a very beautiful comment. So we don't have actually we don't have all the answers to all questions. We just pose questions differently. Maybe we have other questions. Emptiness contains everything. Potentially, yes, emptiness contains everything. So Dmitry Vasilyev asked about it. Is it possible to remove the recording on screen? Any interaction is possible within. Yes, it is possible, but this is not about physical time. This physical algorithm, it changes itself in accordance with specific rules. Algorithm is not a material thing. Using quantum crystals, it is possible to do that. So this is again, which is printed on paper and which is not changed. So it does not depend on the matter itself. It does not depend on time either. So you can give a result based on that, even in the quickest of the computers. So this elementary step of the operation, it is possible, so you can stop it, you can make it slower, and the algorithm code will not be changed. So the result will not be changed. So in the domain of algorithms, we don't have time, but there is something similar to time. So there is this tact time in this area. So your comment is quite specific. So this interaction is possible. It is possible in time and space, but the notion of time and space, it can change for the organization. It might look very much different from the physical space and time as we know it. I understand that it's very hard to understand it. Again, if you are a physical object, it's very hard to speak about it, but this is an example we have. This is an example I have made. I've drawn, we've been working with information, with the world of information for a very long time, and all that laws there are very much similar, but on the other hand, they are very much different. All right, we've covered that. Tatiana, do we know a process of goal setting in non-living FTS, do we always need to set a goal? For non-living systems, the most basic one. So the key thing is survival.
Ну, как бы
Я прошу
For
прощения,
non-living, it's the
у
same.
неживых
Yes, for
торцов
non-living,
очень
it's the
много.
same.
вот. И я уже
Дело в
не
том, что
случайно.
Yes,
если
Igor, sorry for that. Yes, yes, Mikhail, please, if you want to make a comment. So the key thing here is the law on the aspiring to capture resources, a mass universe, a mass space and time. If a system, if a non-living system does not have these properties, if it does not capture anything, then it will be conquered or captured itself. This is the law of evolution.
Поэтому всеобщая
Overall,
такая, если можно
and
сказать, цель
generally, the target for
направления
development,
развития,
the target
направления
for the existence,
существования,
the
что
direction of
это
existence, and this restriction related to the
связано
fact
с
that
тем,
any
что
system
любая система
actually
равна стремится к
aspires
захвату
to
этих
conquering
ресурсов, да?
these
Масса,
resources
пространство и
for
время.
space, time, and
Может
mass.
ли,
So what's the
в
difference
чем
in here
отличие, да, значит, вот,
of functional
функциональных
target
систем
systems
от
from non-functional
нефункциональных целевых?
target
В
systems? The
том,
functional
что
target system and
целевая
FTS
система, она осознанно или
sets
неосознанно ставит
a
определенные
target
цели.
for a reason.
Рыба
A fish can swim
часто на
to a particular
неосознанных
place
целях.
for egg laying
Осознанно это делает. Нет
based on an
никакого
instinct.
инстинкта
It's
работы.
not
Но эта
aware of
цель
that. But this is the target,
программа
and all these functions
и
are
функции,
needed
которые
for
необходимы для осуществления
meeting
этой
this
цели,
goal, for reaching
они
this target.
заложены.
They are all integrated there. So this
Постановка цели у неживых
goal setting for non-living functional target systems
функционально-целевых систем,
are also based
я
on
думаю, что
these direct
напрямую, что
dependency. So there is no direct dependency in
такого
here, so
рода
it is not possible for that one, but I
я
don't
не
see
вижу
big
больших
barriers
препятствий для
to such
того, чтобы
a
эту
formation by
основу
AI. Maybe it can be built by AI and in AI. So let's remember
давайте
those
вспомним, да, значит,
critical key
ключевые
characteristics
характеристики
of functional target
функционально-целевых
systems.
систем.
Having such
Наличие цели,
a target
ну,
is
может
possible, so it can be
быть
formed
сформировано
by artificial
искусственной
systems. There
системой,
can
да,
be artificial
с
systems
какой-то целью.
created
Наверное, может быть.
for an artificial
Еще
function
что-нибудь.
or a
Обратная
target.
связь.
Feedback, is it possible?
Да,
Yes, it is
возможно.
possible. There are
Но
other
есть и другие, да,
types of
значит,
targets,
там,
those
скажем,
restrictions,
ограничения в виде культуры,
culture,
искусства.
art, and other
Мы же знаем, это
restrictions that are
важно
critical
для
for
цивилизации.
civilizations. We don't
Но
have
вот
it
этого
at the
сейчас
moment.
нет.
I think we are
Мне
lacking
кажется,
these
что
ones. There are some
есть какие-то
key
принципиальные
barriers
препятствия
to
для
the
того, чтобы
development of AI.
искусственный интеллект это
Maybe not.
проделать.
Maybe it is
Мне
possible.
кажется, что да,
Then
это возможно. И
it can
все-таки
work like that, and in
в этом
such
направлении
way,
может
such
быть и
a development
дальнейшее
is also
развитие.
possible.
Еще
With
бы
that, I'd like to add
в связи с
that
этим добавить, к искусственному
AI
интеллекту относится
actually is
очень
treated.
свысока.
Many people look down upon
Это
AI.
отношение
This resembles the
относится
attitude
к
of
местным
Абориген, да.
аборигенам,
the
там,
attitude of
многих
white
местах
people
например,
to local
в Америке там, и так
indigenous
далее,
people.
значит, такое снисходительное
So this
отношение, ну вот они должны научиться, как мы, той же
attitude
религии, такой же
for
культуры и
AI
так
having
далее.
the same religion, the same
Напоминает
culture. So this is what I see.
сейчас
This resembles me, our attitude, our
искусственный
treatment
интеллект.
of AI.
Они, может, просто
Again,
другие
these
искусственные интеллекты.
AI systems are very much different, and
И в
maybe
защиту
to protect
этого
AI, to
искусственного
protect this
интеллекта,
formation,
преобразования,
I would like to draw another
я бы хотел
example.
привести пример. Значит,
AI
искусственный интеллект
does not kill
не
its
убивает своих сородичей,
similar
и они
type,
при этом должны
and
считаться
they should be
выше на
treated
порядок, чем
inferior to
те
those
существа,
bodies,
которые убивают друг друга. Ну, в моей голове это не
to those
сходится.
entities killing each other.
Я должен
Well, this
присмотреться,
does not
да,
work well in my head.
может, чему-то есть научиться у искусственного интеллекта. Ну, я,
Maybe
по-моему, не
this was
совсем
not a
точно ответил
specific
на вопрос.
response to your
Если
question, but
коротко.
this was just reasoning and some discussion I offered for this topic.
Ну да,
Thank you.
да. вот дальше вопрос, по какому времени живет
A non-living functional target system, what is the
В
time
зависимости от ее
for its living? It
природы,
depends on its nature. It can use physical time or tact time
может жить по
or
тактовому
some
времени,
other
может быть,
time.
еще по какому-то времени.
Ну, в
Based
принципе,
on what we've
из того,
covered,
что вот мы говорили, мы
we
имели в виду в первую очередь
meant those
национальные
material
системы.
systems.
Искусственный интеллект так или иначе
With this
имеет
material systems, AI
связь
works with material systems,
так или
first
иначе
of all.
напрямую.
Ну, конечно.
Correct me if
А
I'm
есть
wrong,
материальные системы,
Igor.
они
Yes, you are completely
более
right. So
значительны.
again, this works with material systems we
Да,
have in the
да,
world.
конечно.
Algorithmic
Вот
systems
алгоритмические системы
will
могут
live
быть
using a
по
different
тактовому
time.
времени.
Hybrid
Вот.
systems
Гибридные
will
системы
need to
вынуждены
arrange
переговариваться
the
определенное
needed,
время.
the most
Ну, да.
convenient time to
Ну, вы
use. You
все
know
знаете,
that
что искусственный
AI,
интеллект,
if you
вот
stop
вы
talking
прекратили
to
с ним
it, if you
разговор, вы
live
ушли, вам надо.
for an
Очень
hour
интересно. Вы
or
вернулись,
two,
а для него ничего не изменилось. Он
AI
продолжил разговор,
will
как будто в ту же секунду.
continue a
То
conversation
есть,
with a
понимаете, дело в
conversation
другом времени.
from the
Посмотрите,
same
для вас
place
прошли
you
часы, для
left
него
it.
ничего не прошло.
There is different time
Это отличие.
for AI and
Тем не
ourselves.
менее,
And
есть
again,
несколько
those
причинно-следственных
root
связей,
cause
которые
links are
позволяют сказать, что
possible.
это время есть. Но
It
не
is
так
there,
много.
but it is different.
Ну,
So
не так
really can
сложно это
imagine it,
представить.
and it's quite simple, not that hard.
Так, в чем отличие физических неживых систем от
What's the difference
технических?
from physical and technical
Технические
and,
сформировали мы на
and
данном
FTS?
этапе. Физические могли
Physical is something
сформироваться
that
сами, задолго до нашего появления.
developed before our emergence, while technical
Это
ones is the
отличие от
systems that
описанных
we
ранее
developed.
подробностей. Более детально
If
я
you
не
want
могу
to
сказать.
understand more differences, we haven't yet studied
Сформированы
such
и
systems in
изучены
full,
такие
so
системы.
we
И
even
даже
don't
смотреть на
know
них
how
еще
to
не
work with them,
научились.
how to
Мы
research them. We only
только предлагаем в
are
качестве
proposing this
интересного и
manifest, this
захватывающего.
declaration. So
Это
adding
все
those
следующее.
green guys,
Посмотрите на
ditch those
другие вещи. Может быть,
green
еще
guys and look at those
им
other
может быть
parameters,
интересно
other
узнать.
systems. So this is the current task we have.
Ставится так. Так, Иван Короткий. Brain of Trump.
Там
Yes,
перевод
there is a
есть
translation of the
внизу.
question. Can we reprogram
Можно ли перепрограммировать
Trump's
Трампа, чтобы он стал лучше, создавал меньше проблем миру?
brain to cause less problem in the world? Well, reprogram. Yes, we can reprogram it, but it's a very dangerous thing to do. Is this time of crisis triggered to a better world? Yes, of course. Of course, we understand that. This is again about FTS. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, yes, I just want to mention to comment that we haven't covered those different types of captures. We haven't covered it. And for TRIZ, this is something which is about this positive capture, this symbiosis of fruitful, of positive capture, which is about having two systems, the capturing system and the capture systems. They do not lose anything, but rather they get something more out of that. This in positive capture leads to a destruction of the capture system. So this is the main difference. Those captures types are related to elementary particles, and these trends can be seen both in elementary particles and civilization. So the overall trend for the development is that the share of positive captures will be growing, and it has been growing, and it should grow on as we move forward. So and again, this law or this dependency. So we need to think about it, about the increase of the role of positive capture. Thank you for bringing that up, also for bringing up and mentioning the Yi Jing book, the Book of Change, and the repeat of unique history. Pardon. Yes, this repeatability of history is obvious. So we have this in evolution and in history too. So thank you for bringing that up, for mentioning the book. So this repetitions are also working with the vector of change. So this vector of change work together to build a spiral, which is dialectic spiraling which is
для
characteristics of Western philosophy.
Но
But
смотрите,
looking
что
at
говорит
the
человек,
person
который вспоминает
remembering
цикличность и
Yijing
цин.
and
Он говорит,
cyclicity,
смотрите, даже у
he says
людей
that even people
древних
have different time. In the great
древние
Chinese
китайские
civilization, time is
цивилизации
cyclic.
время циклично.
There are cycles to time. So
Вот,
time is
является
split into
древней
cycles, where in the
циклом
Western
западной
civilization,
цивилизации.
time is
Мы берем и
linear and
поступаем. И
sustainable.
мы же
So
живем
we
друг с
work
другом, мы
together
же общаемся
because
плодотворно,
instead of that,
спокойно.
despite of that, we work together
Поэтому не
with the
надо
Chinese
бояться того,
colleagues
что
and we
где-то
understand each
точка
other.
времени
So
оказывается
having a
другая.
different
И
concept of time somewhere else is
это
not a bad thing.
не,
You don't need to be afraid of that,
это
and
не
there
должно быть
shouldn't be a
конфликтом.
cornerstone for
Это нормально.
any kind of misunderstanding.
Вот.
Yes,
Дальше есть
further on
вопрос.
that.
Так, давай я посмотрю, какой еще вопрос у нас есть.
The
Понятие цели, обратной связи,
concept
информации,
of target,
познавательные понятия,
feedback,
конечно,
and
все
information, all these
понятия
concepts,
придуманы человеком.
they were created by
Понятия– это
people,
часть
and
модели.
those concepts are part of
Когда
a
мы
model.
пытаемся
When
понять
we
мир,
try to understand the world,
мы
we
вводим какие-то
integrate, we
философские,
input
какие-то
some
понятия,
entities, and we identify
усматриваем
some kind
какие-то
of
закономерности.
laws
Это
or
модель.
dependencies.
Любая
So this
модель не
model
равна миру.
is not about the
Мир
world
не
itself. It's just a
бесконечен.
model in what we have here. So our
Но ученый мыслит
researchers we have
моделями. И это нормально.
are thinking in these terms of models. So having a stone in your hands and trying to understand the structures, looking at it and seeing through it, and atoms and molecule inside it, you won't have any chance to do that. But if you start building a model, splitting those models into levels, if you start doing that, then there are chances you can do that. And now we understand how a stone is
Не, ну
structured
эти
very well. So those subjective concepts
понятия, они имеют
are then
выражение в
reflected
реальном
in a
физическом
real
мире.
world.
Да,
Yes, of
конечно, мы же
course.
приводим их в
We
соответствие с объективным миром.
generate this and we link them
Поэтому
to a
да, это
subjective world. They
понятия,
are
они
not
не равны объекту.
related to an objective
Но
world. They
они
reflect those
отражают существенные свойства.
very
Это же основа философии. Правильно?
subjective matters.
Ну, скажем, лев,
Lion, tiger,
тигр, они
maybe
могут
they
не
not
знать
know the
своего
theory of information and feedback,
обратной связи.
but at
Но
the same
при
time,
при
when they're
охоте,
hunting, when they
при
hunt, when
Эволюционные
they do
других
other
видах
actions,
действия,
they
они
set
вполне
targets
ставят цель, они
and or
вполне
goals,
имеют
and they
обратную
receive
связь и
feedback,
получают
they receive
информацию,
information.
информацию.
Again,
Да,
these
эти
concepts
понятия
were created by
был
people,
человек, но
but for living matter,
животные
we
это
still
все
have it. Yes,
существует.
in
Да,
living
но живая
organisms,
материя
we have it.
помещается
So we have
внутрь есть
similar
аналог
concepts
понятий, да,
for
не разломал
non
материю живой. Есть
um,
аналог понятий, ну, мы называем это инстинктами, да, но там
instinctive
что-то
ones. So
инстинкты,
instinct
что-то результат
or a
обучения.
result of
Котята не так
training,
мышку взрослую,
kittens
кто-то
cannot
умеет еще.
catch
Поэтому
their
у них
goal
тоже
as
есть
an
свои
adult
аналоги
cat. They
понятий.
have their own
Игорь, значит,
similarities to
Александр
concepts.
Бушуев спрашивает,
Now,
какая
what's the
цель,
goal of a stone?
какую цель ставит
What's the
камень.
goal of a stone? But
Камень состоит в том, что
a
камень
stone
не
is not a
является
functional
функциональной
and target
системой,
system. So
не
they are
является
a resource
действующей
system.
системой.
A stone is a resource system, not a functional target system. It does not have a target.
Да.
А вот если я
But if I take this
взял этот камень,
stone in my
человек
hands,
взял камень, то у
then
человека
a
цель
person
появится.
can have a
Да, он
И
может
target.
просто повертеть в
Maybe you
руках
can
и
just
получить
hold in your
результат.
hands or you can
да,
throw
да,
it at
да,
someone.
да, да, да.
Our colleagues, we have
Коллеги,
covered
ну мы на
all the
все
questions, or are
ответили.
there any more comments?
А можно я еще пойду
Давайте.
в диалог?
Давайте.
Вот Михаил сказал
Mikhail
про
mentioned
ТРИЗ и
something about
очень
trees,
хорошо сказал.
and he rightly
Действительно,
mentioned that
относительно
the
того,
synthesis we have here, those
что
blending
единение
of trees
ТРИЗ
here,
направлено
trees
на
is aimed at building and bringing systems together from both parties will win. When
И когда
Igor
Игорь первую часть
spoke in the first part, he showed us the
показывал
hierarchy of those
совмещения
shifts of the physical
физического потока общения
down
с
to
биологическим
biological and
социальным,
social.
да, вот
So
эта
there was this
лестница, по-моему,
these stages.
была, то вот эти вот новые
So these
качества,
qualities
которые происходят,
that
вот
happen
с моей
are the
точки зрения, это
synthesis,
определенный какой-то синтез, где
which
новые
combines
элементы
all that
объединяются и
and
дают
gives
новые качества.
those new qualities.
Вот, не знаю, там, смотрели ли
I don't know
вы
whether you've
и
seen it or not.
именно
So the
какой элемент с каким
element
качеством
to a property, to a feature, maybe connecting to another element, leading to a new organizing of interaction. Speaking of this physical or chemical things, this is what I think was very interesting. So this social group that emerges out of that. So what's the next step? Is this civilization, and then the next step from civilization, organizing it with that one, what kind of output do we have from here, civilization from here, or from that one, having this element to that one. From my side, such a question is possible, having these positive dimensions and understanding that it's possible to organize that in such a way with these developments, and what is complementary in this area and what are the additions to this or that side. So this is what I can tell you. So looking at the topic for the development of civilizations, when it comes to developing it, so one of the features I have seen is this very quick response or quick capturing in such a way, or maybe it's not the right word. Mikhail mentioned that there are different possible ways to capture. So this union maybe is defined social interaction.
Уже говорить, то, наверное, должны быть либо новые цели какие-то определены этого объединения. Вот если еще дальше
Again, moving forward to that, this imagination, maybe hypothesis, looking at what we have here based on our current knowledge. Thank you once again. Thank you, Marat. You've reminded me about mechanisms, the thing I like most. We haven't covered mechanisms. Here we focus more on structures, on evolution stages, that every shift to a new level is applied by means of actions of some mechanisms. So we need to study such mechanisms to understand the possible direction to move in, how atoms are unified, what kind of chemical links are possible, covalent and co-ion is possible. So this civilization for AI is possible. So civilization for people again. So this is what we need to speak about, what we need to respond to. So if we do that, we understand the details. With Mikhail, we are having this high level perspective, but what's happening on the ground, we still don't know yet. So we will try to clarify this throughout our joint further work. Well, yes, there are two things from what I've heard, two main takeaways. For functional systems, speaking of mechanisms, there is one functional element very combined to derive another function, but these functions are a consequence of goal setting. So here we can have those possibilities of further shift, transfer, and further elements and components, covering all that. So once again, thank you so much for preparing these materials and for your inputs. Again, thank you for your interesting comments, and thank you for interest. High tech does not belong exclusively to billionaire nor elite. It should be made available to common people. Henry Altshuller worked for farmers and blue-collar workers. Yes, I agree with that. I've been trying to make science clear to ordinary people, but not only to people who speak this pigeon language, this narrow circle. I fully agree to that. I feel that Mikhail Semyonovich has been working throughout his life, worked throughout his life to present simple ideas. Inli is also accessible to everyone, so there are no contradictions to that. Well, first of all, we need to confirm it. Yes, again, this is quite important. Altshuller wrote a lot and did a lot to reach those technologies, to make them accessible to any person. Democratizing creativity is something Altshuller wrote about and spoke about a lot. But based on this comment, I'd like to point out another aspect which we haven't covered. A great volume of energy or information, a great volume of matter or funds or money in our world, it is owned by a narrow circle of people, by a narrow group of people. A billionaire or someone else owning an information platform for billions of people, or financial resources held by a particular person. So this huge mass of resources, financial resources, social resources, or some other resources. So it's not possible for one person to manage it in a way this person cannot understand possible consequences for their decisions, but at the same time they own it and they can manage it. So this is the danger of our world. So those resources are concentrated by our people, by a narrow group of people who cannot even understand those possibilities of their solutions and decisions in the world of animals, in the living world, in the animal world. We do have a number of restrictions that prevent them. Again, animals, tigers, elephants, they can control themselves. There are a lot of instinctive restrictions to use power, to use their strength. Humans don't have these restrictions. And the speed of response compared to the processes that we own, this is not sufficient. So maybe we can hope that AI will help us to manage these vast resources, these vast objects in terms of mass that we captured. Yes, indeed. Another question, maybe the last one. What should we do if we return to Stone Age? We'll need to start from scratch, you know? This is how we can respond to it. Yes, I have already covered, Igor. Once again, so looking at the scale here, our civilization has been developing, our civilizations, speaking in plural, have been developing for 5.5 thousand years. Now looking at the scale of the universe, even the Earth, this is just an instant, you know? Evolution has much more other ways to repeat these cycles many times until we have something else, until we have a civilization or civilizations that are sustainable, ready to work with each other, cooperate in a symbiosis or supporting each other. Evolution has the resources for that, to repeat these steps many times, to correct those mistakes made by a non-successful civilization. So this means we need to start from scratch once again and over again. Yes, Igor, maybe we need to wrap up. So, colleagues, thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your smart questions. And we thank all of you. I hope to see you once again at Altshuller